Welcome back to Copper Star Precision, the channel dedicated to getting you more points at your competitive shooting matches. Today we're going to be talking about an electronic level that's new on the market, relatively new. It's from Shooters Global. It's called the SG Pulse. We can turn it on simply by pressing and holding until the light comes on, and there you can see it's on. Now, in full disclosure, I did buy this myself, but I will have affiliate links down below. If you do want to purchase one after watching this review, helps the channel out, doesn't cost you any more money. And speaking of money, this is pretty much $70, $80 cheaper than the alternative, which is the Send It level, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. I also have one of those, and so we can compare and contrast. But in its most basic function, you attach it to the rifle. It comes with a Picatinny mount. It also comes with an M-LOK mount, which I haven't really found a use for because I want it kind of in my eyesight, eye line of the scope. And you can see it's red here, and it turns to blue, and then green, and it's plenty daylight bright. There's brightness settings. All the features are usually app enabled, but the way I train with this is I remember that when the light is red, I need to move the rifle to the right, red, right. So move the rifle to the right until it's green. That means I'm perfectly level up and down. You can orient this in any which way you want and calibrate it in the app, which is something that the Send It level does not do. Send It level basically gives you 4 90-degree options. But if I'm on a stage, it's attached to the Picatinny rail. I get onto the rifle, I'm looking through the scope, and I can see it out of my peripheral vision. It's green. I know that I'm level, ready to take that shot. Much more important for longer range shots than shorter range shots. It's always good to have your rifle straight up and down, you know, perpendicular to gravity, especially if you're using holdovers and you know your holdovers are actually going to go where they should go. But this is more than just a level. There's actually some other features. Another interesting feature, we can press and hold down for 1 second. I've now entered stability mode. So stability mode, and you can set the parameters in the app. Right now I have it set for, I want to know when I'm stable to 1 MOA of movement. So as you can see, if I move the rifle around, it is red, I am not stable. So if you want to practice and your wobble zone, I can get on here and try and get super stable. And you can see as the rifle gets stable, it turns to green. So if I'm trying out a new bag, if I'm trying out positions during dry fire practice, I can see what works, what doesn't work. So you can always look at the target and kind of put a sticky note on the wall or something and see how much you fluctuate around that target. But having that visual feedback of saying, okay, I'm within 1 MOA of wobble on the rifle. So if I'm moving it around like this, it's not very stable until I get stable. And then you can see the light will turn green when I am stable. So you can set the sensitivity to what you want. Maybe 1, 2 MOA is good. That's usually the target sizes we face in NRL 22. So you want to be within the wobble zone of the target. Of course, with good marksmanship, you can time your shot so that as the wobble enters the strike zone of the steel target or whatever you're aiming at, you can pull the trigger, but it just helps have that visual confirmation of, okay, if I have 1 knee down, I'm a certain level of stability. Or if I have 2 knees down, maybe I find that I'm more stable. Something like that. And you can practice with different bags, and you can get an idea of how stable you are on different barricades, on different props with different support. So let's head back into the workbench and I'll show you some other cool features of this SG Pulse electronic level. So let's take a look at the SG Pulse. So it comes in this box. Inside is the unit itself with this Picatinny rail attachment. You also have the option of an M-LOK attachment. So if you want to attach this to your fore end of your rifle, I'm not really sure why you would. And I don't know many scope mounts that have M-LOK incorporated into them. So I think most people are going to go with the Picatinny attachment. And you're going to have an Allen key in the box as well as a charging cable. So it does have a battery with a magnetic charger right there that you just plug into any USB device. So if you want to charge it in the field, battery life has been pretty good so far. If you want to charge it in the field, just bring a power bank with you. So unlike the MDT Send It level, which has a really odd sized battery, not really easy to find. So if you don't have extras and this goes down, you're pretty much out of luck. But yeah, you can get an idea of kind of the form factor and the size there. So So obviously the Picatinny rail section is about the same, but then this has a different form factor. Now this is configurable so that you can mount it, you know, using these holes. Just take out the Allen screws inside here and change the orientation how you would like, or if you're, you know, you want to turn this around the other way, if you're a left-handed shooter and you want it on the right side of the rifle. Same thing can be said for the LRA Send It level. So as far as brightness goes, we can turn this on. Brightness settings are adjustable in the app, plenty daylight bright. And what's interesting about sort of the Send It level is that if it's level here, it just kind of knows if you're changing the orientation 90 degrees. Whereas this you have to configure in the app. So it's completely app-based. So let me turn on my screen recording on my phone and I'll show you what the app interface looks like. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect. We're going to choose the SG Pulse. You can see it flashes there. It is connected. We are done. We can go into here and then we bring up this main menu. So as you can see, it shows that I have 92% battery. If I go into demo mode, I can actually get live indications of the level, the stability in terms of MOA. So if I stop playing with it, it goes down to 0. Has barrel angle, inclination, all that kind of stuff. Kind of cool if you want to go play around. Sensitivity, here we can set shot detection sensitivity if you're using that in conjunction with the SG timer. There's some cool things you can do there. Brightness level, here I have it set at top brightness, but we can drag this down and confirm, and then it gets kind of dim. So we'll just change that up to max, which again is super bright. Horizontal level limit. This is kind of like what you want to determine is the limit for the green zone. So if you want to make this a little bit more forgiving, you can just change this to, let's say, you know, 2.0 degrees. Gives you a wide berth of what is considered level. I had mine set at about 0.5. I am still playing with this to find out what makes the most sense. Stability zone is that stability that we talked about earlier. Right now I have this set to 1 MOA. Yellow zone set to 2 MOA. I think most targets that you encounter, you know, a 1 MOA stability hold is pretty appropriate. Barrel angle, you know, do you want fractional format or decimal format? And then calibration. So we can calibrate this instead of the LRA Send It level, which kind of knows what orientation you have it in as long as it's 90 degrees. Here we have to calibrate it to the rifle, but that also lets us do some pretty cool stuff. So for example, there's this level mode here. So what I'm going to do, let's say you want to mount a scope, right? So here's your scope rail. I can stick this on there, and if you look on the screen, you'll notice that my desk is not perfectly level. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to recalibrate and say that is true 0. Doesn't matter what orientation your rifle's in. Imagine this is on a rifle. It can be canted way to one side, but we're now telling this level that this is 0, and you know, see how it goes green. So now if we want to mount a scope, so I can just put this here, give me a moment to put these scope rings on. Okay, so now that we have these scope rings tightened to the point where the scope still moves, but if I put it in a position, it's not really going to go anywhere, I can now just put this right on top of the scope cap. I can adjust this until this registers green. So, you know, if my scope's way off to the side, you'll see that on the screen, and as I turn this, it's going to reference that point. There, I went too far. So, right, and it's very sensitive, and there we go. So now, with this green that we reference off the base, we now know that this scope, if this is level, this turret cap is level, we know that this scope is now level to its base in these rings. And then we can actually, you know, keep this on here. It probably helps to take this off, the bracket off, just so it stays on there by itself. Otherwise it's gonna wanna tip over. But then we can go about doing our tightening sequence and making sure the entire time that this is going to stay perfectly level. Now, is your rail and your rings, are they all level together? you know, there could be some error in the system, but at least this is telling you that this is perpendicular, this is parallel between your rail and your scope, the top of your scope turret. Obviously, you have to go do some validation in the field to make sure that your reticle is actually plumb and parallel or perpendicular to the ground, but this is a great, quick, easy way to level a scope when you're setting up a rifle. And again, this could be like on the rifle tilted sideways, as long as you keep the rifle still, reference the actual rail, and then just stick this in the same position, then it will be fine. So added functionality, not just a, you know, level for practice and training and all that kind of stuff. It's got the stability mode in there, and it also can help you level your scope. So definitely multifaceted. So with all the praises that I've been talking about this SG Pulse from Shooters Global, are there any downsides? Well, unfortunately, if you are colorblind, because this is a 3-color system and it's using the same window, you may have difficulty if you are, let's say, red-green colorblind, and I know some shooters are, whereas when it comes to the MDT Send-It level, we have 5 different indicators, and what's going to happen is it actually has directionality, right? So you're going to be able to see those indicators. It also gives you a better indication of how far away you are from level. So for example, you know, am I way over there, or am I just slightly off level, or am I level versus, am I way tilted this way? So it gives you a little bit more better indication of how far away you are from level, whereas this is just going to be your 3 options. You know, are you, you know, close to level, level, or not, right? So you're going to be off to one side, off to another, or you're going to be right in the middle there at green. So if you're colorblind, or you want that sort of granularity when it comes to how far off level you are, the MDT LRA Send-It level is going to give you that kind of added fidelity when it comes to knowing if you're level or not. So another thing to keep in mind is that when this comes from the factory, it is calibrated for sort of the horizontal orientation like this. And this even might be attached up top here. So you will change it if you want it, like I do, on top of that pick rail with this on the side. And it's only going to turn green in this horizontal position. So you're going to have to go into the app and calibrate it. There is a way to calibrate it on the unit itself. I think it's a press, release, and then press and hold. While it's calibrating, this will turn purple, and then it will recalibrate as long as the rifle is still enough for it to recalibrate. So it will take some finesse. What I would like to see in the app, in the user interface, is an option from default factory configuration. If you could just make a button that says, you know, take the factory settings and rotate it 90 degrees, or rotate it another 90 degrees, or another 90 degrees, or even like the 45s, which I think is kind of interesting. So, you know, if you could just take the factory calibration and then add your offset to it, and that's something that could be updated in firmware. So that's not really a big deal, but that is a thing that I would like to see added in later firmware versions from the Shooters Global team. Just a way that I don't even have to go in. I can just take the default calibration from the factory, which is usually in this position, and say, okay, take that and rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees. And then I know that this is calibrated to level. So then I can actually use that, you know, to my rifle and scope. And if I need to go to fine-tune calibration later, then I can do it. But that at least gets me, you know, off the ground and running a little bit faster than just saying, okay, let's put it on the rifle and get it calibrated. So a little bit of something that could happen when it comes to the software, but again, that could be easily a firmware update and more features in the future. So I'm excited to try this out. You'll be seeing it on my rifles in competition. Definitely a great tool to have, especially for those longer range shots. And if you want to pick yours up, don't forget to click down in the description, use that link, and pick one up. It is about $70 or $80 cheaper than the Send-It level. So if you've been waiting for a level and you're tired of using, you know, little spirit levels or bubble levels, these are great options, instant visual feedback, and definitely help you on those longer shots, making sure that you're set up for success when it comes to the competitive shooting sports. So check this out, SG Pulse from Shooters Global.